got this gut-wrenching feeling that something big is about to happen, there's a reason. And it has everything to do with what is now being disclosed to the general public.
Bombshell UFO report is expected in June from the U.S. government.
There are great ideas undiscovered, breakthroughs available to those who can remove one of truth's protective layers.
If you've got this gut-wrenching feeling that something big is about to happen, there's a reason. And it has everything to do with what is now being disclosed to the general public.
Bombshell UFO report is expected in June from the U.S. government.
Meantime, UFO sightings in New York have nearly doubled since the pandemic began, and we are getting new video from the Navy showing pyramid-shaped objects flying in the sky.
We were warned by the late Wernher von Braun in the years leading up to his death in 1977 that there were going to be a certain number of cards played on humanity, all leading to a culminating event. Now, everything Wernher von Braun warned us about has come true, except for what he called the final card that they were going to play on us, and it has everything to do with UFOs.
The strategy that Wernher von Braun taught me was that first the Russians are going to be considered to be the enemy. In fact, when I met him in '74, they were the enemy. Then terrorists would be identified, and that was soon to follow. We heard a lot about terrorism. Then we were going to identify third world country crazies. We now call them nations of concern. But he said that would be the third enemy against whom we would be needing to build space-based weapons. And the next enemy was asteroids.
This new one you're tracking, how big?
It's what we call a global killer. Nothing would survive, not even bacteria.
An asteroid some scientists call a city killer came closer to Earth than the moon this week. The scary thing is that scientists had no idea it was coming.
Now, at this point, he kind of chuckled the first time he said it. Asteroids, against asteroids, we're going to build space-based weapons. So it was funny then. And the funniest one of all was against what he called aliens, extraterrestrials. That would be the final card. And over and over and over, during the 4 years that I knew him and was giving his speeches for him, he would bring up that last card. And remember, Carol, the last card is the alien card. We're going to have to build space-based weapons against aliens. And all of it, he said, is a lie. The way he said it to me, there was no doubt in my mind that he knew something that he was too afraid to talk about.
Can you tell us, have unidentified flying objects been seen?
Well, sure. We have lots of reports about what we call unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Just a few days ago, the Pentagon confirmed that a 2019 video of a UFO sighting is actually real. It was a UFO.
Very importantly, I'm hereby directing the Department of Defense and Pentagon to immediately begin the process necessary to establish a Space Force as the sixth branch of the armed forces. That's a big statement.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
They've done a great job systematically programming each one of us into believing that this alien threat is very real and very near. But what they don't want us to realize is what ancient accounts actually say about these beings. Now, the idea that ancient aliens encountered mankind is very popular today. We've all seen these accounts of aliens bringing us great technologies and sharing all these secrets with us. But what they want you to forget is the actual origin of these ancient alien stories. They were never considered to be from outer space. They were considered to be fallen angels.
Could we reinterpret the story of fallen angels as beings not from heaven, but from Mars?
Accounts dating back thousands of years depict an angelic race of people coming down and sharing their technology and their ideas with mankind, even producing offspring. But they want us to forget that and replace it with this idea of ancient aliens from space. And they have to, because that's the only way this deception is going to work, is if we don't understand what's going on. Now, if we look back at the origin of the modern alien abduction era, we'll see that it has a very demonic undertone.
And look at this character right here, Aleister Crowley. He's out there in January through March of 1918 doing a series of magical experiments called the Amelantra Workings, in which he is said to have opened a portal to another dimension, allowing an entity, I believe a demon, named Lamb, to enter through it. Now, this is the drawing that he made in 1918 of this character that he apparently had some interaction with. You know, if you look at this picture, it's curiously similar to something we might call an alien gray today in pop culture. So, you know, it doesn't take a whole lot of research on this character to realize he was into some really, really dark stuff. So why did I bring this up? This is, 1918 time frame. Well, you have this character who's very much a part of the early space program, Jack Parsons, who is basically a disciple, practically an heir apparent to Crowley and all of his activities. Well, supposedly, Crowley's portal was further enlarged by Jet Propulsion Laboratory founder and rocket fuel scientist Jack Parsons. Okay, this is the guy who's one of the founding members of JPL, who's a big part of NASA and the space program. And he's out there with Scientology and Dianetics founder L. Ron Hubbard in March of 1946 at a location that later became known as Area 51. They're doing all kinds of ceremonial sex magic, and they called it the Babylon working. And it's very similar to the Amelantra working, based on ceremonial sex magic. But unlike Crowley, however, they were not as adept at opening and closing portals, and theirs apparently stayed open, and the modern UFO era began 1 year later, in 1947, the same year Crowley died. So, this is all going on about the same time you've got Admiral Byrd going down there for Operation High Jump. And a decade later, we got the founding of NASA, and these are the characters, okay? Freemasons, Nazis, and occultists creating the space program.